are you doing?
We got the list of the members here? Okay.
Everything. They like this.
Oh, you can.
No.
Bill, you're
Come in next.
Billy, you're not going to be fiery, Bill, or no?
Yes. I'm firing him?
Billy, you think going to be fiery or going to be muted today?
When is he muted? I've never seen that.
He's very calm. We good? We ready to roll? Are you guys all ready? Press, you guys ready? You guys okay?
All right. Do we have a list?
Yeah, so you guys know here's the list of the
Okay,
speakers.
got it.
Anybody, does everyone want to speak?
So
I assume everyone wants to speak? Okay.
Just introduce the next person.
I got it. Good afternoon. I'm Josh Gottheimer from Jersey. Today, I'm very proud to announce with this esteemed group that we are formally launching a new bipartisan group, the SALT Caucus, because for every member here and for the tens of thousands of middle-class families we represent, it is high time that Congress reinstates the state and local tax deduction so we can get more dollars back into the pockets of so many struggling families, especially as we recover from this pandemic. Now, this group we've got 30 members who've joined the SALT Caucus. Many of them are here today. I do want to quickly acknowledge the vice chairs. First, the co-chair, Tom Suozzi from New York. He's going to speak next. Our vice chairs.
Co-chairs.
And Young Kim. And where's the band? Where's Garbarino? Oh, and Dr. Garbarino behind me. And of course, we've got our vice chairs, Bill Pasquale, Jamie Raskin, Mikey Sherrill, Miss Underwood, Mr. Smith, and Miss Porter, and who not all of them are able to get here today, but they will be speaking out on this issue. A couple of quick comments, then we're going to hear from everybody. If you're just tuning into this issue, the 2017 tax hike bill gutted SALT and put a $10,000 cap on the deduction nationwide. The average SALT deduction in my district, I know this affects all of our districts, was more than $24,000 in 2017. And so at a $10,000 cap, taxes went up for the families in my district I represent, not down, and it's had a major impact on the cost of living in northern New Jersey and has sent a lot of people and jobs packing for other states, especially for the red states or moocher states that stuck us with the tax bill in 2017. Now, this has been around for 104 years. Billy will talk about that. He remembers when it was passed. Our taxpayers will be able to deduct what they paid in their local property or state taxes before paying their federal taxes to avoid double taxation. And then, of course, this bill came along. So when many of us, everyone in the delegation but one in Jersey, voted no in 17, we did it because we knew it would raise Jersey taxes on our families and drive residents and jobs out. It's done exactly that. United Van Lines last year in Jersey was the top state. Jersey was the top state for outbound migration, a spot we've held for the prior 3 years. The number one reason cited is taxes and SALT. It's been a disaster for middle-class families in our district, in my district, where the median property tax bill is $15,000. So you can imagine how hard this has affected people. So when people say that it's only affected certain top income earners, that's not true. This has affected middle-class families in my district, and it's really hurt so many programs in New Jersey and threatened programs that help our hard-pressed families. I know you'll hear more about that in a second. So this bipartisan group we're founding today, the SALT Caucus, has members from coast to coast, across the political spectrum. We're all banding together to help find a way to get this done, this Congress, to help educate folks about and get them the facts on SALT and get tax relief for hardworking families, middle-class families in our districts. Now I'm excited to introduce the great man from New York, my dear friend, the co-chair of the SALT Caucus, and a heck of a fighter, the great Tom Suozzi.
Thank you, Josh.
Get applaud for Suozzi.
Thank you, Josh. And listen, thanks so much, everybody. We're really so grateful that everybody came out here today. why we're trying to build this diverse group. And Josh mentioned earlier that we've got 30 members of this caucus already. We just announced it yesterday. We just sent the letter out yesterday to ask people to join. So this is a great response, and we're so grateful that everybody show up in such a short notice for a press conference. But we want to keep the momentum going. We've got momentum on this issue. We're getting attention that this issue is so important to so many districts throughout the country, to so many American families. And it's proven to be very effective because of the teamwork of all the people that are involved here. So with that, she's one of our vice chairs. She's been involved in this issue for such a long time. She's very effective on this issue. She's very tough, and we're grateful. But she has to go to a hearing that she's supposed to have right at 1 o'clock, and she's got to get back to her office. Please welcome Mikey Sherrill from New Jersey.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so proud to be standing here today with such a wonderful, diverse group of members of Congress as we kick off this bipartisan SALT Caucus. A critical component of our overall economic recovery has to be to get rid of this state and local tax deduction cap. And I think there's some misconception out there that this won't help middle-class families. In my district, the state and local tax deduction cap has really harmed so many of our middle-class families. In fact, over half of our constituents in my district took the SALT deduction before the 2017 tax plan. So this has really been harmful to teachers and cops throughout my district. To be clear, my state and a community like mine that invests in great public schools. New Jersey has the best public school system in the nation. And when we invest in those great public schools, when we invest in our workers, when we invest in our infrastructure, we're getting punished for that now by the federal government with this double taxation. So it's critical that we get rid of this. And thanks so much to everyone. I look forward to working with this caucus to make sure we win critical SALT relief for families across the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mikey.
Good job, Mikey. Now from the great state of California, a good bipartisan leader, Young Kim.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank my co-chairs, Mr. Suozzi and Mr. Gottheimer, for taking the charge, and I'm very, very proud to join the SALT Caucus as one of the co-chairs as well. I represent the 39th Congressional District in the state of California. Californians in my district and across my home state have been burdened enough by high taxes and increasing cost of living and housing. The last thing they need is to be hurt even more for state and local tax costs at the federal level. I've heard from many of my constituents about the burdensome taxes as a result of the SALT cap. Some of them are business owners who are struggling to survive due to this COVID-19 pandemic. And in my state of California, it is estimated that in the year 2022 tax year, California 39th District will pay an average of more than $640 million in taxes. We're standing here today to say it's no more. No more taxes in already high taxed like a state of California. And I join my colleagues here today to introduce the Salt Deductibility Act, and I'm proud to be one of the original co-sponsors of the bill. This bill simply says, repeal the cap on salt. So the hardworking Americans in my district and throughout the United States will see their taxes lowered, and they can keep even more of their hard-earned money and making their life even more affordable. And I'm very proud to fight for my Californians by joining this SALT Caucus, and I'm looking forward to working together to help lower taxes for my constituents, and I'll continue to do all I can to deliver the results for the California's 39th District and beyond. And with that, I'm going to introduce my colleague, Andrew Garbarino.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here today to join the other co-chairs, Tom, Josh, and Young, for this very important issue. Restoring the SALT tax deduction is huge, not just for my district, but for all of the country. It's something that, it's not a thing about billionaires, helping billionaires and millionaires. It's about helping the middle class. My district, teachers, firemen, cops, small business owners. The average real property tax bill on my block on Long Island is $15,000 a year. I don't live in a big house. I live in a nice, small, comfortable house, just like everybody else does on my block. Across the street from me lives a teacher. To the left of me lives a police officer. They all have high tax bills, but they don't make a lot of money. They need our help. We're supposed to be helping these people, not hurting them. That's why I'm so proud to be here today. We have to pass this bill, get rid of the SALT cap right away. If we don't, we're just going to keep hurting middle-class people. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so glad to introduce the vice chair of this caucus from New Jersey, my friend, Bill Pascrell.
Billy, the street fighter of all street fighters.
Thank you very much. It's good to see everybody this morning. I want to thank my brother in arms on the Ways and Means Committee, Congressman Tom Suozzi. He's like a dog with a bone on this issue. But I made a commitment in 2017 in the great debate over the tax cuts that year. And we saw this legislation, which included the deduction being removed, or at least the threshold being established at $10,000 for the state and local taxes. This is the oldest deduction on the books. Abraham Lincoln knew exactly what he was doing. If any of these characters know history, he knew exactly what he's doing. So we needed money for the war, the Civil War. But he knew if we kept on taking from the states and the counties and the municipalities, they would not have the money. And you heard my friend from Long Island talk about it. They would not have the money to build roads, hospitals, etc., bridges. Smart move. So you deducted the interest, and you were able, maybe not to buy a house, but to sustain yourself whenever you did buy a house. And that's the story. So we go back to the Civil War. When discussing tax reform, we must consider the 150-year history as a baseline for our tax policy. And this is important, and this is critical. 150 years. Think about it. Republicans sometimes specifically targeted our states in 2017, and they bragged about it. The president at that time bragged about it. The leadership bragged about it. Well, look, if we want to have target practice every day in here, they were right. But this shouldn't be target practice, because the folks that are affected by this threshold that we've established at $10,000 are Democrats, Republicans, and Independents. The SALT deduction was a lifeline to the middle class, and the numbers prove it. In 2017, a year which will go down in infamy, 42% of New Jersey taxpayers, nearly 2 million people, deducted their state and local tax, averaging over $19,000 per household. In fact, in half of my district in Bergen County, $24,000. More than 81% of those who deducted SALT earned less than $200,000. Now, I'm from Paterson, New Jersey. These numbers are astronomical. We're much more modest as an urban center. So we're joining together today to make clear to our colleagues across the Congress and our leadership that we're serious about this. I'm willing to, push the button. If you don't know what that means, see me later. But I am telling you, people in my district and other districts, particularly in the northern part of the state, are looking to see what I do, which they should, and how I'm going to fight to get rid of this deduction. God bless all of you for being here today. A year ago, there was no hope. 6 months ago, we started to have hope. And right now, we're going to do this in a bipartisan way because it means so much to us in our districts. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No,
Do Miss Maliotakis.
And I'm going to this, my buddy.
Nicole.
Oh, Nicole
Yeah, 'cause she's gotta go. She's gotta
Maliotakis.
go.
Congressman Maliotakis, you've arrived. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm really proud to be here to be a founder of this bipartisan SALT Caucus with my colleagues. It's critically important that we approach this from a bipartisan standpoint. And I can tell you that this is going to be a tremendous relief for the people that I represent in New York's 11th District, the people of Staten Island and Southern Brooklyn. Now, this is something that we can do here in Washington to provide relief for middle-class families that we represent. But we urge the local and state local municipalities and states to hold the line on taxes. In New York City, we have seen the property tax levy increase well over 50% in just the last few years. That is an atrocity. That is an abuse of the taxpayer. And my good friends from Long Island, they're fortunate to have a property tax cap. But somehow, some way, New York City got left out of that property tax cap when New York State implemented it. So I would say that this is a great thing that we're doing for the people that we represent, particularly those hard-working middle-class families that are trying to get by, to give them some form of relief. But it's not a license for the local municipalities in the states to continue to increase their taxes and abuse the people that they represent. Thank you very much.
Now introducing the great Judy Chu from California.
Yes, I'm Congressmember Judy Chu, and I'm proud to be a founding member of the bipartisan SALT Caucus. My district in Southern California is one of the most impacted districts in the country. In 2017, before this limitation was enacted, 37% of the households in my district used the SALT deduction, and the average deduction was $21,000. In 2017, that deduction was cut in half. In my district, the average salary of a Pasadena school district teacher is $60,000. If they bought a house, a modest house at $300,000, they could not afford it without the SALT deduction. But they do it, and they have done it in the past because it was part of the federal tax code. These constituents never dreamed that they would lose on the average $10,000 in tax deductions, seeing their bills increase by thousands of dollars, sacrificing their putting the children through school or planning for their retirement. So it is incumbent on us to restore the SALT deduction for families. Let us restore fairness in our tax code. And now I would like to introduce my colleague from California, Michelle Steele.
Thank you very much, and I'm very honored to be within this bipartisan SALT Caucus. You know, California itself right now that pay highest taxes in the nation, that our income tax rate is 13.3%, and we are hearing the legislators, they want to raise up to 16.8%. I'm talking about state tax itself. Average deduction from SALT that lost my district only is $28,000, and it's about 23% of the taxpayers been affected. In California itself, average is 18%. The last administration's tax reform did a lot good. One, tax code simplification, and second, married couple tax deductions, and third, that corporation tax went down to 21%. But this SALT cap for $10,000, that hurts not just some of the states, but it is really hurting taxpayers itself, because my district is in Newport Beach and other beach cities, and they get really hurt a lot. So I am very happy that we are here today because we agree it's time to repeal the cap and let taxpayers keep more money in their pocket, not in the government. So thank you very much for confirming this. Thanks.
Danny Davis from Illinois. Davis.
Well, thank you very much, and I'm delighted to be a part of this group, and I want to thank the organizers for organizing and putting it together. Illinois is known for a lot of things. We produce a lot of soybeans, a lot of corn. Chicago sits on a sizable lake. We're known as the city of the big shoulders, but we don't want to be the shoulder. We are a donor state. That is, we pay more taxes than we get back services and resources from the federal government. We don't mind being the big shoulder, but we don't want to pay twice. So I stand with this group who are simply saying, let's have tax fairness. Tax fairness is all that we're asking, and I'm pleased to be a part of the group.
And Mike Levin's going to come up. Danny, I love that you're talking about the moocher states and standing up to those moochers.
We're no moochers.
Mike Levin.
We don't mooch in
No
California.
moocher there.
We're not mooching in California. Thanks to Josh. Thank you, Tom and Andrew, for your leadership on this critical issue. I think it's really important that everybody sees the word bipartisan. So often in Washington, we forget that every single day as we work together in the halls of Congress, we are working on a bipartisan basis. This is a critically important bipartisan issue. My district along the Southern California coast, next to Michelle's and Young's in Orange and San Diego County, the average is over $26,000 a year that people took before the 2017 tax law. And the thing that I want to make sure that you all hear, and you've heard it from some of my colleagues, is that this is about working class, middle class people. In my district, there were over 58,000 filers making less than $100,000 a year who took the SALT deduction. And the property taxes, I don't know, Judy said $300,000 for a house in Pasadena. I don't know where you find a house in Pasadena for $300,000. Anna knows. I won't even talk about Anna's district, which is multi-millions. But the average price of a house in Orange County, California is around $830,000. San Diego County is around $720,000, $730,000. Our property taxes are approximately 1.5% of the assessed value of the home. Do the math, $10,000 is punitive. This was designed to punish California, and we've got to undo it, and this group will undo it. We are working on a letter. I think we've got over 30 members of the California delegation. We're adding more to that letter all the time. We'll be releasing that soon. This is an issue we're going to see through to fruition. It's critically important we get it done. I thank my colleagues for their leadership. Thank you.
Tom Malinowski from Jersey. Big leader on this. Big pusher. This guy's been out in front.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, everybody. So thank you, Congressman Davis and Josh. You use harsher language, moocher states, but the principle is so important. One of the things we all got in common, in addition to representing states that were hit hard by the SALT cap, is that we represent states that give more to the federal government than we get back. This sounds almost bizarre when you think about it, but New Jersey, we don't understand the concept of the federal budget deficit because there is no budget deficit from the standpoint of New Jersey. We get back significantly less than we pay in taxes, and on top of that, the one deduction that helped middle-class people in the state of New Jersey was taken away. We've all talked about the practical impact on middle-class families in our district. I want to stress the principle at the heart of this. The principle is that the government should not take money that has already been taken by another government. That's why this was part of the tax code from the very, very first day of the federal income tax, as Bill Pascrell pointed out. In fact, this principle of no double taxation was outlined in the Federalist Papers before Bill was even born, believe it or not. Because it's just such a basic fundamental principle. And look, 2017, this was taken away. Don't let anybody fool you. The Congress in 2017 did not take away the SALT deduction because it wanted a more progressive tax code. They did not do this because they wanted to soak the rich. That's not what was on the minds of the people who put this in that bill. This was a deliberate attempt to punish states where the voters have freely chosen to spend more, to donate more, to have good schools and good public services, and that's wrong. So we've got some decisions to make this year, in the next few months. I love what Joe Biden has proposed. I love the framework for the infrastructure bill, for the bill to follow on, but here's the deal. If we're talking about raising revenue to pay for these things, and I absolutely support that, I am open to ambitious revenue raising as part of these bills. If it affects the individual taxes of my constituents, we've got to address SALT as part of that effort. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Now, Anna Ashley from California.
Thank you to all of my colleagues. Just about everything has been said, but I have a few things to say as well. I represent California 18. It is number one in the nation in terms of the hit of state and local tax deductibility. 200,000 households with an average deduction of $63,000. Now, I voted against that huge tax break bill because number one, I thought it was an assault on the middle class. Just as small businesses are the backbone of our economy, the middle class is the backbone of this entire country. So I think that this is redlined in terms of unfairness. Redlined in terms of unfairness. Anyone that files long form has 4 basic deductions, or had 4. Mortgage interest deduction, charitable contributions, health expenditures, and the deductibility of state and local taxes. So when they went through the tax code, they just hoovered wherever they could find something to help pay for that $4 trillion tax cut. So my constituents of my colleagues in the states across the country were really hammered. So I look forward to winning this. And when we do, and we will, this caucus will then disband. It'll be the most short-lived caucus in the history of the House of Representatives. Thanks, everyone.
That's good. That's a great line. Yeah, Brian Higgins, my man. A lot of Ways and Means, man.
Thank you very, very much, Tom Suozzi and Josh and Billy Pasquale. I'm glad that Billy's still around after he did such a great job negotiating with Abraham Lincoln on this very, very important issue. I'm here to represent Buffalo and Western New York. And the reality is that Erie County taxpayers, which includes all of Buffalo, over $1.6 billion in already paid taxes, almost $13,000 per household. And it's amazing, all the things that the federal government can do, but to find a way to impose a property tax at the federal level. $815 is the average income or property tax increase in Erie County because of the loss of this deduction. You know, when you reduce SALT, you're supposed to also reduce blood pressure. This was a cap that gave a lot of heartache and increased pressure to individuals. This is a great initiative that's being undertaken by my good friend Tommy and Josh and Billy Pasquale, and I'm honored to join these great colleagues in a bipartisan way toward the goal of beating back, which has already been said, a tax that was punitive. It was to hurt blue states. But they were so delusional in their creation of this cap that they forgot that red states are also paying it as well. Thank you.
Playing sweeper from the state of Illinois, Brad Schneider.
Batting cleanup.
Thank you and good afternoon. It's often repeated here that everything's already been said, but not everyone has said it. I guess that's the role I get to play.
This is an issue to me about responsibility, about fairness, and about process. Responsibility, the states you see represented here are states that have made the decision that they're going to invest in their communities. They're going to invest in their children, in their schools, in their infrastructure, and they're going to pay for it. Fairness is that the people who decide to pay for what they want to do for their communities shouldn't be taxed a second time. These communities shouldn't be put into a place where they're seeing people leave their states because of tax decisions made in an unfair process that happened here in 2017. There's no question in my mind that the decision to go after states like California, New Jersey, Illinois, New York was a decision to punish those states by those with the power to do so. We need a tax system that is fair, that lifts up our nation, that makes our companies competitive, that makes our future for our children the future we all want them to have. The states you see here have done that. They've made that investment. The people in those states shouldn't be taxed twice. It's the wrong policy. We need to change it. Thank you.
Good job.
Good job, man.
Thank you, Brad.
Any questions?
Yes? Kadia, go ahead.
So, the administration kind of said that they're leaving it up to Congress to negotiate this out. And in terms of that, is there a number that you guys are looking at, or is it a total repeal? And if there is a number, what is that number above 10,000?
Well, listen, we're looking for a total repeal. We're pushing for total repeal, and we're not going to negotiate against ourselves in the press here. So we're going to keep on working on this. Our job right now is to educate people. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and one of the things that this group is going to work on is actually telling stories of families in all of our districts throughout the country and start a social media campaign to start letting people know who are the families that are really affected by this. In addition, as Brad pointed out, who are you? He sits next to me in Ways and Means. People are leaving our states. They're leaving our states, and they're leaving back behind the middle class and low-income people that are left holding the bag. We're going to either see their taxes go up or they're going to see their services cut. So we've got to educate people about this issue more. It's not as simple as a soundbite. So, we've been talking about this for about 3 weeks now, 4 weeks. It's really part of the conversation. We're going to keep on doing stuff like this. Mike talked about a letter he's going to be issuing later today. Billy wants to say something also.
Just, there's a lot more at stake than transportation here. Who asked that question?
I did.
There you are. Good question. There's a lot more at stake. We're not only talking about the nation's transportation. We've had Republican and Democratic presidents address it. Eisenhower, we owe so much to his presidency in terms of transportation, looking at it as a security issue. And now we Democrats are happy that Joe Biden is the president, but he's the president of all the people. And if we forget that, you see what happens. But the question is of the executive and the legislative branch of government. And you know how every administration in the past 15 years have talked about this big infrastructure plan. Where's the plan? The question is, there is a plan. I think the president has presented it in good faith. But I want the president to know, who I deeply respect, and he's been a friend for many years, that there is the legislative branch of government, and we're in the article before the executive branch of government, if you forgot it. And so I carry the Constitution in my pocket all the time to remind people of that. That's got to mean something. We're not here to gather information from other sources and other branches of government and then maybe vote for it or not. If that's our intent, we've lost. And we will diminish the legislative branch of government even further than the last 5 presidents. And I'm telling you, there's a bigger issue than the money involved and what the objectives are of building bridges and highways and the computer age that we're in, etc. So I thought it's a great question. I hope you ask it many times in the future. because I like to respond to that question. And I'll tell you where I'm coming from, because you have every right to know where I'm coming from.
Next
Because
question.
the press needs to be respected also.
Go ahead.
Speaking of the money involved, are you guys going to be proposing any offsets to pay for whatever proposal you guys land on?
I think that that's going to be part of the entire negotiation process.
Right. And I'll shed to that. What Tom said before, it's all part of, as Tom said, part of the negotiation process. We're not going to negotiate right here, but I think we've made it pretty clear that what we want is a repeal of what they did and what the moocher states did to us, and time to reinstate the state and local tax deduction. And that's where we come at this from, and I'm sure we'll have lots of conversations in the weeks and months ahead.
Is this a red line for a pay for the infrastructure package? Basically, if salt cap deductions are not part of a tax code change that may come through the House on infrastructure, will you guys still vote for it?
You know, I think it's the same answer as the previous questions that you've heard. You know, I've said before, no salt, no deal. Josh says no salt, no dice. Billy says a lot of things. So we all, you know, we're all saying that this has to be part of the conversation. So again, we're not going to negotiate against ourselves. We're going to follow this process. We're going to build our coalition. We're going to educate the public. We're going to educate our colleagues, and we're going to hopefully come to a result that's good for the American people.
And go ahead. Yeah, go.
Yeah.
Jump in, right?
Oh, go ahead.
I was actually going to ask the same question. How many members of your caucus have absolutely committed to not vote for the infrastructure bill unless SALT is repealed? Do you have a number on that?
Yeah, and I'll go to Tom. And we're not, listen, and we've got, in one day, this was announced yesterday, 30 members have come out to say this is a critical issue in one day. You're going to see how this unfolds in the coming weeks, but the bottom line is you know where we all stand together on this issue. You want to add to that, Tom?
Yeah, just like, you're talking about the infrastructure bill. There is no infrastructure bill. There's a framework that the president has proposed for an infrastructure and jobs plan. There's a second framework that he's proposed to invest in families and education and health care. Separate from those, or perhaps linked to those, there are proposals to raise revenues of different sorts. We don't know if it's going to be one bill, two bills, three bills, four bills. So even if we wanted to negotiate in front of the press, which we don't, like, there'd be nothing to talk about other than stressing that this is profoundly important to us, that there are bottom lines for a number of us here. I would direct you to the letter that a number, I think 7 or 8 of us, sent to Secretary Yellen, in which we laid out a principle that will guide how we, at least some of us, those of us who signed that letter, will approach our votes on these coming bills. But there isn't a bill yet. And to answer your question, we write the bill. The president is not, right? He would agree, right? He proposed a framework. We will write a bill.
Go ahead. You want to say something, Ryan?
I wanted to add something to this. I don't view this as a litmus test. Around here, the operational question is, how many votes do you have? How many votes do you have? We already have a lot of votes on this issue, and it's going to grow. So when all the teams go to the negotiating table, there's respect for large blocks of votes. That represents millions of people in our country in terms of our representation. So this caucus will grow, I have no doubt. It already was born a very large baby. Really, it already has it's punching above its weight. So you have to have the votes. You have to have the votes to be paid attention to, and I have no doubt that this issue will be paid attention to. Look, there's a great field to be mined here. Yeah.
Let me just say one last thing, and then I will stay for questions for other people individually. But you know, this is a long process. This is going to be a. We'll get you in 1 second, Jonathan.
Stop talking, Suozzi.
This is going to be a long process, okay? The speaker has said that she wants to try and get something done by July 4th, so that's months away. You know, some of us have already spoken with the Treasury Department about this issue. We've spoken to other people in the White House about this. We're speaking about it amongst our committees. We're speaking about not only just the SALT issue, we're speaking about the other revenue issues, we're speaking about the other expenditure issues. This is going to be a process over a period of time, as it always is, as Anna points out. And the bottom line is, this is part of the process. SALT is part of this negotiation.
When the House passed the bill in 2019 to repeal the SALT deduction, pay for it with the tax on raising the top tax rate, there were more Democrats voted against that bill than right now you can afford to lose if you pass on a party line vote. How do you? And they all complained that it was a giveaway to the rich. How do you get those people on board to support a repeal going forward?
Yeah, this is. Yeah, go ahead.
No, just kidding. Slant knows better. Jonathan, you know better than anybody. That was as Anna just pointed out, that was a different Congress. It's a new day. The facts are different. As Anna said best, we're going to build these votes. We're going to get there. Tom said it. We've got an issue that's going to be critically important and front and center of these negotiations. And I think let's let this process work through. You've got the bipartisan SALT Caucus starting with 30 members on its first day out. We sent a letter yesterday inviting everyone here today. So we'll see you next time when we have even more members. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you,
I
gentlemen.
like your thing about how it's going to end.
Yeah,
That was a good line. That was a good line.
You guys sending a letter?
Letter already went to
No, but he talked about another one.
Oh, no, that's California.